Steph and Kath.
Hello.
Welcome
Hello.
to the next edition of the Bariatric Banter podcast.
I am super pumped.
Me too. This
Highlight
is
of my week.
episode. Well, we're pumped because you're here.
We've been counting down, anxiously waiting
Yeah,
for today. We're super excited. So thank you for coming.
we're so pumped to
Yeah.
have you here.
Well, it's just nice to know there's other people creating, like in the Canadian space. I love to hear it, and knowing that there are people like close by, just living the same experience. I don't know about your friend groups, but obviously, not a lot of people in my friend group have the bariatric experience to be shared. So
Yeah.
it's always nice finding others.
Oh yeah, you nailed it. It was me, and then Steph after me, and it was like we had each other. So
No, that's about it.
wasn't much, and it doesn't mean there isn't people who are doing it, but nobody was like sharing that
No.
knowledge and that vibe online. So
Mhm.
we were like, well, we'll take up the mantle, then we'll do this.
Well, that was the thing. Like the Canadian content is so lacking. And I remember like when I was, thank goodness I had Hannah, because when I was going through my pre-op and first of all, when I was just even trying to decide, is this what I want to do? Is this the path I want to go on? Thank goodness I had Hannah. And then I stumbled across your TikTok. Like I've been following you since before I even decided to have surgery. And like using your content as part of my criteria as to, okay, what is this really about? Do I want to do this? And then I would message Hannah continually. And then during the process, if I didn't have Hannah, I would have had nobody to turn to. And so much of the content is American, which we've talked about on this podcast, is very different.
Very different.
So the more I think for us, the more we can put out there just to help with
Mhm.
some of the myths, help answer some questions. That was ultimately our goal, really, is just let's help people find some Canadian content where they can relate to it, they can get the answers hopefully they're looking for, and clear up some of the confusion around what's out there and what's not out there.
Yeah,
I
love
dig
it.
it. Yeah, that's where this came from. There's some great people doing some stuff, so we've shared them before. Like there's some cool people we've loved. Some of them have disappeared. Like I really want to know what happened to All About Bariatric. I
Mhm.
loved following her in her grocery hauls. Haven't seen her in a while, but yeah, it was just. Even to this day, we still struggle to find information that we're looking for. We've gone down rabbit holes on things like calories, on macros. Oh, I could do a whole rant on macros. Just like accessing info, we still struggle with finding results and answers. And
Guidance.
like everybody
Yeah.
varies so
Yeah.
differently in what they recommend. So that's what we're going to try to do. We want to talk to dietitians and people like you and people who've done different programs. And because we know we both did sleeve, but you didn't. So I think we'll let you introduce yourself to everybody who I guarantee you follows you already, by the way. But we want to do stuff like this because you have a different experience still in Canada, but
Mhm.
we can't speak to the bypass side of things. So we were like, we should bring someone on
And
who
a different
can.
program, because Hannah and I went
Yes.
through the same program as
Same
well.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was in a different area. I'm very open that I was in Hamilton, Ontario. I don't live there, so I feel comfortable sharing that my program was out of Hamilton, Ontario. And yeah, I had RNY in April of 2023 now. So I'm almost 2.5 years, just past 2 years actually, similar to Hannah.
You're a year
Um,
after me or a
yeah,
month after me.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're very similar on the paths we're on. I would say I'm currently holding in maintenance phase, but yeah, I started TikToking, I think only a few weeks or maybe a month or two prior to having my surgery, just because I needed a sounding board. A lot of people will say they start posting their journey because of accountability, which was kind of the case for me.
Absolutely.
I did have a friend in my life who had also had bypass at the time, and she wasn't really. She was helpful, but only to an extent, because I would say she was very much not a rule follower, and that's just not in me to not be a rule follower after surgery. So it was nice just finding other people, and like we said, we have a lot of American friends posting, so I found kind of camaraderie in posting my journey with that. But yeah, RNY holding in maintenance phase. Yeah, I think that kind of sums up where I'm at right now.
Can you take us through like high level why you chose bypass versus sleeve, or how your program kind
Yeah.
of determines which
Yeah.
option you should go with?
Yeah, so I actually, and a lot of people will ask, "What? How did you decide?" And honestly, I didn't get a choice. My program
Okay.
said you are going to be told once the surgeon is in there, he's going to decide what makes most sense for you. Now, they did say that based on research and how long bypass has been out there, the preference was bypass. But it all came down to, I guess, all of the fatty liver and how much space you have in there to work with.
Yeah.
That's what it was going to come down to. So I had to sign a waiver saying that if they get in there and RNY is not optimal for a healthy surgery, then they would switch over to sleeve. And I had to sign my life away just saying I was okay that they would do as a doctor
Oh,
what felt best for my body while they were working
In
with
there.
my anatomy.
Did you have to do a pre-op liquid diet before through your
Oh,
program?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally had to do so. My highest weight when I was going on shakes was 263, and then I had to do 2 weeks of the
Okay.
Medi meal shakes.
oh, medi
Yeah,
meal. Nice. We had
Nice.
OptiFast,
Yeah,
which
we had
I've heard
OptiFast.
is worse. But
I was gonna say, I don't know which is better. I think they're both
I know.
they're
not
both
so good.
not
Let's
great. You
put it
just
that
get
way.
through it.
Yeah, chug it down. How
That's
long were
Go
you
ahead.
in the program before you started the 2-week liquid diet?
So I actually I was with an actual clinic that specialized with obesity who then referred me to the bariatric program. So I was on GLP-1s for about a year before I decided that, or actually it was my doctors who said, you did the GLP-1s, you gave it a good college try. We think a referral for surgery, bariatric surgery would be good for you. And then I said, okay, at that point in time, I also wanted to try myself, like give it that one last shot. And then, yeah, I was in the bariatric program for about 9 months before I actually got
Okay.
that call saying, hey, we're going to book you in. You've done all your, a lot of people don't talk about too, if you don't get your prerequisites fast enough, like seeing all your
Mhm.
doctors, getting your blood work, your
Yep.
scopes. I ended up
Yep.
having to get 2 scopes because they
What?
found something abnormal.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh,
Yeah. So that could delay things and people don't
Yes.
realize that, or there's not a lot of, I've noticed with comments I get, there's not a lot of patience there, that there's going to be, you just got to follow the process before you have surgery and it could take some time.
Yeah. It's crazy the difference between clinics. So your timeline's pretty close to mine. I was 11 months. Hannah
Okay.
was longer because she was in COVID.
oh, goddamn
But I
COVID.
have a friend who just went through Hamilton um, a couple months ago now, and she was 2 months from start to
That's
finish.
Oh
Like,
my
crazy.
goodness.
yeah, blew my mind.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
short.
Blew my mind. 2 months. In crazy.
I
Right.
appreciated the time because it really
Me
allowed
too.
me to figure out it's what I wanted,
Yeah.
like,
And
Yes.
get your mindset. There's so many, like Hannah and I've talked about, there's a lot of physical changes, but there's a lot of mental, emotional mindset changes that have to happen, habits that have to come into place. And so, as hard as it can be when you finally make that decision to have surgery, you're bought in, you're excited, you're ready to go, as hard as it can be to wait, I think that's so important and so crucial. And we talked about this where, the programs in the US where you go, you pay, you have your surgery, and you call it a day. I appreciated now looking back having that 11-month time frame because it gave me time to mentally wrap my head around what's about to happen, how my life's going to change, start implementing some of those habits, making the changes slowly and steadily
Yes.
to build up to where I needed to be to
Mhm.
then be successful afterwards.
In the
Um,
moment, I wasn't happy about
no,
waiting, and I
during the
was like,
process, you're like, "This
"Let's
is stupid."
go."
Like, call me and tell me some
Yeah.
numbers, man.
But in
Um,
Yeah.
hindsight, I look back and go,
yeah,
good God, I would have failed spectacularly if I did not have this lead up, this ramp up. Cause you almost reach a point where you're like, okay, guys, like, let's go.
I'm over
I'm
this.
ready. Like,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
even said to my mom, like, I just feel so ready. And they would say things like, wow, you're really positive about this. I was like, oh, guys, I've done my research. I've done everything I need to do. It was just me. I had nobody to talk to or lean on. So I was like, I feel Like, I know what I need to know. I did the work. And I remember telling my mom, like, I would rather walk into this surgery being like super excited than have to be wheeled into this operating room because I did not make this change in time. And they let you walk in, which was super fucking cool about Guelph. You're waiting outside the room in your little bed, and I'm still trying to not be anxious about it. And the nurse was like, "You want to walk in?" And I was like, "Yes, I fucking do." Like, I was so
It was
ready to
very
go
cool.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I hadn't had that waiting time, I think I would have been like vomiting, anxious, stressed out. Like, there's no
Mhm.
way
So
in 2
worried.
months. No, and
Yeah.
then
Yes.
they let us choose at Guelph. Now, I will say they did strongly suggest bypass.
Mm.
Um, and we've told people, and I'll say this caveat here: if your surgeon tells you to go one way, like, please, like, listen to them.
They're in that role
Um,
for a reason.
yeah, and don't just be like, "Well, Hannah and Steph pick sleeve, so I'm gonna pick sleeve." Like, don't. I researched duodenal switch, bypass, sleeve. The other one I can't pronounce, because there's like 6 or 7 versions of this, folks. So
Yes.
I researched the crap out of it, and it did come down to bypass or sleeve. And I
Mhm.
had long talks with my mom, who is a nurse and was a cardiac nurse at the time. And I said, "Okay, let's walk through the pros and cons of each of these." And being in my early 30s and being relatively healthy, like no diabetes or like just high blood pressure or high cholesterol, I said, I think sleeve would work best for me because I can reverse it to full bypass if this goes wrong.
Mhm.
And I like the idea of being on my feet and moving. I don't, I want to be same day surgery in and out. So my surgeon was like, my recommendation's bypass, but I'm going to actually let you pick whichever one you think is best.
Mm.
And I said, sleeve. And we went through why. And he said, okay, those are really good reasons. And I'm fine with that. And he said, you could pick at the day of, if you're laying on that bed in the operating room and you look at me and say, bypass, like, you're allowed to choose up until, but only certain people are. So do not be offended or feel bad if your surgeon says, it's my very strong recommendation that you will
There's a
be
reason.
successful with
There's a reason, yeah.
bypass.
We had the same surgeon and same
He's
program, same
awesome.
surgeon. And then, yeah, during the pre-op, same thing, like, he goes through, "Okay, this is bypass, this is sleeve. These are the pros and cons of both. These are the complications of both. This is what I recommend. You tell me what you want and why,
Mhm.
and then I will tell you if I agree or not." But yeah, there's all different reasons why one is recommended than the other.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
One is not better than the other. You have to do what's right for you or
Yeah.
what medically they say is right for you. Um,
Yeah.
so no, I think, and we've talked to people like I have now, us who have done sleeve. As I said, my friend who went through Hamilton also, she just had bypass. She's crushing it. She had a great experience. So just trust with like trust your surgeon. Do what your medical team advises.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it was super cool walking
So
into the
cool.
operating room. And I said to Hannah, I remembered, I was in like pre-op. I was in the bed, and then the porter, I guess you'd call her, came to move me, and she was like, "Okay, let's go." And I was standing there and I kind of went to walk and she looks at me because I remember Hannah saying, "You walked into the operating room." And so like I go to walk and she looks at me and she goes,
In the
in the
bed.
bed. And I was like, "Oh, this is crap." Like
You were
Hannah
so
got
pissed. You're like,
yeah.
Hannah
I was like,
fucking got to
"Hannah got to
walk in.
walk? Like, why don't I get to walk?" So I got into
Oh.
bed. I was so mad, but then they rolled me outside of the operating room and
Yeah.
then gave me my IV and everything. But I
So
literally was
funny.
laying there. I'm like, "This is crap.
Oh, I could
Like,
just tell.
I
I could
wanna
tell you were
walk
probably like,
in."
fucking
Yeah.
Hannah.
I was like, "How what is Hannah so special? Like, that sounds so cool to walk in there." And then after they did my IV
Yeah.
and stuff, yeah,
That's
then the nurse
badass. Just
comes,
walk right in there.
right? Like, own it,
Yeah.
right? So then the nurse comes, she's like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she
Yeah,
goes, "Okay,
fine.
let's go." And then she started walking away. And I was like, "Oh, now I get to
Mhm.
walk in."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then, yeah, then I got to walk in, which was super cool.
Mine, I got wheeled in, but I was not very nervous the day of. I was actually very like excited. And then
Yeah.
the only time I got nervous was in Hamilton, I guess the surgery area is like back to back doors of surgeries happening with
Okay.
like windows,
Nope.
Oh,
No, no,
and they're
no.
wheeling me past, and I'm like,
other people?
we're going through this whole hallway of surgeries, and I'm
Oh,
seeing all
no.
these surgeries
Nope.
happening, and just like surgeons all standing there doing their thing, and
Oh, that would
I'm
freak
like,
me
they're
out.
bringing me right to the end of the hall, so I got to see every door
Oh, Christ.
up to my
That would freak
surgery.
me
No,
out.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
that would freak
It's
me out
also
freaked me
so
out a
much.
little
cold
bit.
as
I
hell
was
in
like,
there.
okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
nervous until I just saw all this. Like, I'm not someone who's like blood and stuff does not scare me, but it
No.
was just like the reality of that's about
Yeah.
to be me.
Over and over and over again.
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
ugh, I was not scared. They should have told me to look the other way because it was that or like brick wall on the other side. I would have preferred the brick wall, but
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh
Because
gosh, oh
I
gosh.
get me
assume you're
through.
like us, like you've never had a major surgery before
No,
this surgery.
I had never had surgery until that. Like, I had wisdom teeth, which isn't really
I
anything,
don't count that.
and no, and when I was little, I had tubes in my ears, but I was little, and
Little.
tonsils, but
Yeah.
I'd never had surgery before. So I
Yeah,
had no
so
idea what
that's the
to
thing, right?
expect.
When you don't know what to expect and you
No,
just get to one door and then
right?
walk in, you're kinda like, "This is new
Ooh,
and cool."
yeah.
If you have to wheel past them for 15
No.
minutes before you go in, then your thoughts start going, "Oh,
Oh,
shit.
this is real.
Oh, Jesus."
This is real.
But no, I love
Yeah.
that you said that because I think we all that's one thing I want people to kinda take away from it is it's okay to be nervous, but there's
Yes.
something weird about bariatric people where, like, the day of surgery, we're all kinda like, "Fuck, yes," because for the most part, we've been begging for this for so long in one way or another that, like, I was so excited for this. I didn't
Other
even
than the
think
IV.
about post-op or anything after. I was just like, "Let's fucking
Let's go.
go."
Let's
Yeah.
go.
I was
Yeah.
excited for the surgery. I was terrified for the IV, but I was excited for the surgery.
Yeah, and the heparin and all that jazz.
Oh,
Um,
the heparin.
but what we're really here to talk about today, which we should do another episode just all about the differences between our programs, is something that I think rears its ugly head from day one straight through to year 10, and that is body dysmorphia. That is, for those who don't know or who have never experienced it yet, that is, you look at yourself, whether it's in a mirror or just in general in life, and you do not see what is actually reflected there. You see yourself still as your obese self. And this happens not just to obese people. This is, you see yourself with scars that aren't there, or it's just that you see your body in a completely different way than everyone else. And it's hard for you to see the weight loss, see the journey, see the healing, see the changes in yourself. For our specific use case, we still see ourselves as our obese self. And it's really hard not to see yourself like that.
And I didn't tell you, Hannah, I thought about it this morning when I
Yeah.
was getting ready. I had my 6-month post-op phone call this week, and the social worker did ask me, she said, "When you look in the mirror, do you see the changes?" And I kind of stopped for a minute and I said, "Yeah." And she said, "But do you see," and I was kind of surprised she went down this path. She goes, "But do you see the changes that other people have seen?" Because I mentioned to her that I went to an event last weekend and there were people there that I hadn't seen since surgery.
Yeah.
And so I was curious what reactions were going to be, and you get excited because you know you've changed. And I told her how I had like amazing feedback, people were awesome, everybody was super supportive, da 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 da. So then she said, "Okay, but when you look in the mirror, do you see the change?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And then I thought for me, I said, but honestly, not to the extent that other people seem to see it. And I know part of it is the fact that, and it'll be interesting because we are at different parts of our journey, right? Um, it's interest part of it I know is because we see ourselves every day. From a day-to-day basis, the changes are minuscule, right? From one day to the next. So you see yourself every day. It's harder to see those changes, I think. Um, but I said to her, "No, I don't see it the same. I know my clothes are different. I know I'm downsizes. I know there's 92 pounds that are gone that weren't there, but I still see the flabby arms. I still see the loose skin here. I still see the bigger thighs because I've always had bigger thighs. I know they're going to be the last to go. Like I still see all of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, my waist is smaller. Okay, I have better this, but there's the thighs or there's the love handles, right? So it's interesting how you see it to an extent, but you just can't get past some of those areas.
Yeah. Do you guys have that moment where you're walking past a mirror and you like quite literally like you're not quite looking at yourself, but then as you're walking by, you're almost like, who is that?
Yeah, you double take, you're like,
Yes.
"Oh,
Yeah.
yep,
Yes.
That was probably one of my
yep,
first moments that I was like, there's early on in my journey, I remember doing that and being like, it was such an out of body experience, kind of
yes."
not realizing that was me.
Especially
Because
if you're wearing certain things. I
I'm
think
used to always avoiding the mirror. So
well,
looking the
yeah,
other way, looking
yeah,
down, not looking in it. So when you catch yourself in it, you're like, what? And I almost wish that I could go back to like first year Hannah because there'd be moments where like that would catch me and then I would just stop and marvel at it and I'd be like, holy shit. Like, and I
Yeah.
would be so excited. And now 2 years post op, no, like I've lost that wonder and that delight. Now I go, okay. Are you gaining weight again? Look at
Um,
your belly. Like I've gone fully back into mode
The
instead of like,
criticism mode.
whoa, marvel mode. And that kind of sucks.
yeah, I can relate to that actually. That once you get far out enough from it, I remember that feeling of not recognizing myself and doing that double take in a mirror. But this far out for me, the loose skin and stuff is something that I'm like, honestly, envy is one of those things that like it kind of gets the best of you. You see all these wonderful creators getting surgery to get
Yep.
that loose skin, and it's something that is just not accessible to me, not affordable for me. And I just have to live with it for now, anyways. And it's one of those things where it's all you look at,
Mhm.
It
you
is, and,
know?
like, everyone's doing it, and, like, good for them, like, it is it's
So
not that
happy for
it's
them.
not an option, they did tell us, like, after 2 years, you could consider skin removal, but to your
Mhm.
point, shit's pricey, like, we're talking 10 to $20,000 that I just part of me goes, "For
And it
loose
looks
skin?"
so everybody
So,
you see in recovery
that's the
looks
other thing.
so so miserable.
Yep,
Yeah.
because it's not
Yeah.
easy, like, bypass surgery, we've had a whole episode on minimal kind of pain that
Yeah.
to an extent, but skin removal surgery, they do multiple areas at the same time.
It's
You have to have
intense.
drains
Gotta get
inserted.
massages too.
Yeah, so you
Oh,
can't
the
really
drainage
lift your
massage. Yeah.
arms and like so there's part of me that like, yeah, now I look at myself though and I go, cool, I have a gut. And like I can't think like that. Like that's loose skin, but I look at it and go, oh, I look so disgusting in these jeans. I don't know if this is the case for you, but what I like, and I hate this voice in my head, but what I've kind of started struggling with is this voice that says, well, you haven't really lost that much weight. Or like if people
Mhm.
saw you today, they wouldn't think you were skinny. So maybe you should stop talking about it
Which
because
is crazy because you have.
yeah, like, I mean,
You've
we've
lost
lost
a
a
person.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
160 plus
Like,
pounds is a
you've lost a
considerable
whole
amount,
human.
but when you're
Yes.
this far out,
Yeah.
like, in your first year and it's not for everyone, like, I know that I suffer from this in my first year and lots do, but there was almost it was easier almost to convince myself to celebrate this and be like, "Holy shit, like, fuck that noise, like, look how great
Mhm.
I look." And now that I'm at the lowest I've, been weight-wise, I just find it really hard to celebrate it because the voice in
Mhm.
my head says, "Well, if people don't know your story, they would look at you and think you're still overweight." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Cool, maybe I should just, like, shut up.
I
Stop
experienced that
talking."
with my apron belly really bad because like the things I could fit into and what I feel would look flattering on me if I didn't have it are two different things, and there's just certain things I'll avoid wearing because of the way it is. Like I have to wear or feel the need to wear like Spanx with it and things to like
Yeah.
hold it in. And then I think, oh, I'd be another 5 pounds if this thing was gone off of me. It almost feels like a limb I wish I didn't have, to be honest.
Yes.
Like, so yeah, I can relate to that feeling of to I allow it to limit myself, to be honest. I wish I didn't care so much,
Yeah.
but the reality is you thought all this weight would come off and you wouldn't care anymore because you've got this wonderful body that you've been like begging for,
Yeah.
and it is wonderful and I can do so many more things with it. But then I also I still pick it apart the way I did prior
Resent
to
it.
surgery.
Yeah, and I get angry some days because 'cause I'm like, "Fuck, I've lost a lot of weight, and I just wanna, feel fucking smoking hot and awesome," but I'll put jeans on that, like, do fit me, and they button up, and I'll look in the mirror and go, "Yeah, there's that goddamn hanging belly, though," which, like, is loose skin, and I
Mhm.
resent it, and I get really fucking
Mhm.
angry about it, and I'm like, "Come on." Like, but then I remind myself, there was a point in time that you said you'd celebrate the fuck out of having loose skin. That you would just proudly
Yeah.
wear it because
Yeah.
you've never had loose skin.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's just so mentally hard. The face is starting to bug me because it's like I will tell Steph, we'll be on
The
podcast. I'll
amount
be
of
like,
times
"Do
I
I have
have
a
to message
jowl?
her back and
Do I
be like,
have
"No,
jowls?"
you
It's
don't
like like, and I will ask her on a weekly basis, like, "Are these
is my face
jowls? Is this what
uneven?
this is?" Or I'll be like, are my eyes going crooked now? Am I like, is my face like?" But
Mhm.
My
it's
face
just
hanging?"
I
No.
wish that I didn't care. I think a large part is like I'm also single and trying to get back into dating. And boy, my poor therapist is really earning her living. But I was like, I feel like I have to tell everybody my story before they meet me or they're not gonna be impressed with how I look, and that's so fucked up to think. That's so fucked up to think.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm trying to figure out from from the 6-month point, that's what I'm trying to, I'll say, almost get ahead of, but I don't even know if it's possible because Hannah and I have talked about like the loose skin surgery. And I said, for me, I don't think I would do it only because I'm so chicken and because everybody looks like they're in so much pain afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like constantly tell myself now over and over again, it's part of your journey. It shows how far you've come. It shows what you did. It shows the effort you put in. It's like, be proud of it. And I'm trying to like constantly get this in my head because I'm thinking, okay, if I say this to myself every day, will I maybe actually believe it by the time I get there? Because it's already starting. Like, and I know I have areas that are going to be bad. Like,
Mhm.
no, my arms are going to be bad. They've always been bad. Hannah knows, I don't wear t-shirts in public. I don't really, I don't, I maybe went out once last year in a t-shirt. It'll be 40 degrees. I'm not in a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, they're bad. My thighs have always been big. I'm starting to get like loose skin on my inner thighs already.
The
Like
little wrinkles, the
the
little
wrinkles. Oh,
wrinklies.
the
Yeah,
wrinkles
My
are
inner thighs are
there.
so bad, y'all.
I got those.
Yeah. And so like I don't wear shorts. I don't own a pair of shorts. And my goal for the last year had been in the summer when it's 40 degrees out, I don't want to be in jeans. I want to wear shorts. But now I'm like, oh shit, here go the thighs. Am I still going to wear shorts? And I know like my lower below my belly button is always a problem area for me. I know I'm going to have the apron belly there too.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm trying to get ahead of it mentally, but I think the hard part too is we're so used to already focusing on those areas before
Yeah.
surgery. We do have it in our mind that, yeah, I'm going to crush this surgery. I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to have the body I've always wanted. I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to feel so great, but we can't stop fixating on these areas. And then when the loose skin sets in, it just brings all of those negative comments that we've told ourselves for years in the
Mhm.
mirror back.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my worry too, is how at 6 months out can I get ahead of it? Can I do anything now? I'm doing strength training, I'm lifting weights, I'm trying to do the things they say to do. Take it, Hannah. Hannah's
Okay,
gonna start
old
lifting
Hannah's not
weights
doing any
soon.
strength trainings.
She's gonna start.
I brought this
Like
on myself.
I'm doing vitamins, I'm doing protein, I'm trying to do all the things, but I worry that same thing. Like once I get to that further out, that kind of magic's gonna be gone. I'm
Mhm.
still gonna look at myself and go, "Well, okay, you lost weight, but you still look like crap here, here,
Yeah.
and here."
I read this thing recently that was talking about just like as human beings, we like naturally always want to go into like almost like self improvement mode, or things can always be better than your current state.
Yeah.
Um, and it made me feel a little bit better to be like, you know what, even if I had the body, and I will say I do, a person in my life who had surgery, and she went to Dominican Republic. She had every single
Mm.
surgery you can think of. She had every kind of lift, tuck that you can think of. And there are still things to this day she would change or have done differently or still feels she needs. So I don't know if it ever stops. And I think there's a little bit of comfort to be had in that, that it may not stop even if you give yourself.
Yeah.
I think I'm never against surgery. Because I likely will have it one day for myself. I'm hopeful that one day I'll have that for myself. But I need to accept too that that might not bring me the happiness on the other side that I think it's going to bring me. Right.
Right.
Do you fear that you would end up, not like I'm not shaming your friend, but do you fear that this could turn into that slippery slope? Because they always say after surgery, like watch for transfer addiction.
Like
We never
Mm,
think about it in terms of cosmetic things, but do you worry that, because now I'm scared of that, but that you'd start and then be like, okay, that's it. I have to keep going.
yes, 100%. I've seen it, and I think that does scare me. It absolutely scares me to think that you just don't know when to stop. There's always something. Now that I know I can just pay to get something fixed, it becomes almost like that Amazon overnight shipping. I'll just
Sneak
pay
I'll
for
just
this
the
get
in.
my apron belly
anniversary.
removed.
Sniff this, sniff this,
Yeah.
right?
Do you see a world where, like, so that's my fear too, is once we start, we don't stop. But the more I think about it, the more I think the belly would be the area that needs to go,
Uh-huh.
because it physically just stands out so much. I do have loose skin on my thighs and my arms, but I I've had people say, and I'm starting to come around on, oh, it's actually not as bad as you think it is.
Uh-huh.
But the belly, I think, is like, I just can't. Like, that's so much excess weight hanging there that just gets in the way. Do you think you could do a one and done? Like, I'm just going to do the belly and then I'll learn to live with the rest of the body.
I very much thought that for myself. I think I'm gonna just do the belly. I also don't have children yet, so it's a conversation of, do you do that now or do you
You
wait?
wait. Yeah.
Right? So I'm leaning towards waiting, for that reason as well. My arms do hang as well, but I something that I've kind of I don't hate it about myself. I feel like I could live with it. So it may
Same.
be an area I leave. And I think honestly, if it were to be between my arms or my inner thighs, it would be my inner thighs because there are areas that I didn't think would be a problem that I dislike
Yeah.
much more than others.
My
Yeah.
butt's great, by the way. I got a
Oh,
great butt for those who are applying to date me. Steph said, send your resumes in. So
slide
keep
into the
sending them in.
DMs.
I love it.
But it's like I kind of looked at it and was like, oh, on the side of my thigh,
Yep.
there's some loose skin coming, which is interesting. My face is starting to drive me fucking nuts, which is hilarious because everyone looks at it and goes, what are you talking about? But I was used to a fat, swollen face where, like, yes, I had double chins like this, but everything was good. And now I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh no. Like I'm just, oh no.
But
So
that's the
that's
thing, we're so used to being so critical of ourselves, right?
don't want
And
to touch my face
yeah, and
at
we're
all.
so used to looking at ourselves in the mirror and just and just picking ourselves apart and being like, this is crap, this sucks, this is too like, it's so hard to get out of that mental mindset. And even like Hannah, your face is so different. Like
It's very
my
different.
face has I feel like my face has changed a little bit.
Oh
I
no.
don't feel like my face is bit like everybody always says your face changed so drastically. I feel like mine's changed a bit, but I don't feel like I've had as drastic of a face
2
change,
years. You
right?
gotta give it time because even my
Exactly.
mom and, like, God bless her, but I would share face photos and be like, "Whoa, look at my face." She goes, "That's the same face." And I was like, "Fuck you." Like, "Don't
Thanks,
say
mom.
that."
Thanks,
I was like,
mom.
"What do you mean?" She's like, "You
No, your
look
face is
that's your face."
so
And I was
different.
like, "Mom," but, like, you need to give it time because, like, you are narrowing in, especially in,
Yes.
like, your workout photos and your like, I think the hard thing too is when you're in this perspective, sure, I can see my old face when we're
Yeah.
this close to the screen. But when you take your workout photos, like you are narrowing
There's
in.
changes. Yeah.
But you got to give it 2 years. The
Yep.
best advice I had was one of my like I have a cleaner that comes every now and then because the dog and all that jazz. But she had bariatric surgery and she said, "Oh, I didn't mean to pry, but I saw that you had the calendar art that you're counting down for surgery on your fridge." And I was like, well, it's not prying. It's taped to the
It's
front of
right
my
there.
fridge. She's like, I had it too 5 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, you look amazing. She said, oh, blah, blah, blah. And she said, best advice I can give you is watch your hands. And I said, watch my
Yeah.
hands. She said,
Yep.
you'll start to notice the weight loss in your hands. It's going to be a very surreal
Mm.
moment, but you'll notice it there. And I remember thinking, fuck is she on about? And then there was a day, and it was not during my first year. It was probably into like a year and a half that I looked down and went,
Ooh, they're little.
they're not
Yes.
sausage fingers.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
they are thin. Like
The
they
day
are
that I could put my I haven't worn so my engagement ring sat on the ring holder for 4 years because
whoa.
I couldn't put it I was so swollen. I would wake up swollen, so I couldn't wear it to bed, and then it would take forever during the day for the swelling to go down, to then put it on. I'd wear it for, like, half an hour, and then I'd have to take it off. The day that I could put this back on and wear all my rings and feel like and the fact that they move, like, I can pull them off, I now have to get it tightened. I'm not going to yet, but that to me was bigger than the face, bigger than the clothing. The fact that I have to now be careful that my rings don't fall off was like mind
Major.
Yeah.
major. That was a massive
Watch
thing
so
for me.
watch your hands, guys, and
Yeah.
necklaces. Watch your hands and necklaces. It's weird, but you just start to notice like, oh, a necklace is supposed to have room. Fuck. All right.
Yes.
No,
Oh
it's
my
supposed to
gosh, the amount of times I said no to a necklace because it wouldn't fit around my neck at the time. And that goes to say with your measurements too, like you don't realize unless you're taking them how how many inches you're losing. But
Mhm.
my rings, I was a ring girl before, and now none of them fit me, but I've kept them just for the purpose of every so often, like to put them on and just realize how loose they are. Like it is
Yeah.
a good reminder. So I've kept a lot of the rings I used to wear. And
Nice.
I got engaged last year, and I already have a tightener on my engagement ring, but it fit me perfectly at the time of my engagement last June.
That's incredible.
But
Doesn't
that's
fit
im
anymore.
I think that's the stuff that's important, right? Like, we talk about non-scale victories, which are one thing,
Yeah.
but I think when we talk about, like, body dysmorphia, not seeing the changes and not seeing what's happening, having physical things like rings that you can actually pull on and off, having
Yeah.
physical
Yep.
reminders of things like that to reinforce the positives.
It
Mhm.
reminds me of, like, not in the word, I don't mean this to phantom limb syndrome, when
Mhm.
people have to have
Yep.
an amputation. What they tell them to do is, like, put the mirror there or, like, snap yourself out
Yeah.
of it by, like, hitting the limb. And I'm not trying to say that we went through anything that they went through, but it's almost like you have to have something that hits you and snaps you out of this, because you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
dysmorphia is not a 10-minute thing. You can be in
Mm-mm.
this for weeks.
Uh-huh.
You can just
Mhm.
hate how you look, be really upset. So you almost need to have the ring
The old
Uh-huh.
pair
or
of
the
jeans.
old like something that physically hits you out of this. For me,
Yeah.
it's photos. And that's why I continuously look at the same old photos and I go, holy shit. Like, you have, like, there's something, I can't stand in a mirror and snap myself out of this at all, but I can pull up a photo and then look at another photo and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, like,
Uh-huh.
this is snapping me out of this more. But I describe it as that, like a phantom limb thing. Like, what is going to be your physically hit that and see that there's nothing there, to
Yes.
pull you and snap you out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had on my calendar for my first year post-op, like an automatic reminder on my phone that reminded me to take photos because otherwise it was just something that didn't come naturally to me. And as bigger people, we just never took photos of ourselves. We were always
No.
behind the camera.
None.
So I forced myself to have like a like that every month I took a photo. So for my first year post-op, I have a photo every month in like
That's
a
awesome.
similar pose. I think a lot of us do that. But those are huge. And I think though what I didn't realize is I thought like I feel like it's very naive to think, but you think 1 year post-op, I'm gonna be exactly where I thought I would be. I
I
continued
thought
to
that.
lose.
Yeah, I thought
Yep.
that. I'm
You
now
did?
coming to the
Yeah? It's not
realization.
1 year post-op. That's not the mark you're
No.
going for. I think it was about I didn't hit what I would think now is my maintenance probably for like a year and 6 months,
Mhm.
Yep.
I was
probably.
pretty close to the 2-year mark and was like, "Oh, so I literally haven't gone up or down in a couple of months. I guess I've hit where I'm at maintenance wise. I'd like to go a little, but that's fine. Like, I have room to play with. 12 to 1,500 calories gives me room to, like, okay, just go 12 to 13 instead for
And
and
when you
see.
start weight training.
Yeah, okay, so I haven't been doing that, and I really need to do that, and that's a whole thing. I think, once I start weight training and I get back into, like, a very consistent pattern, we'll be fine. But, yeah, you don't hit it in your first year. I'm seeing more and more research saying, "Buckle up, 3 years." Like,
Mhm.
that's when you get where you actually wanna
Yeah.
go, and that seems pretty on par, like, to their credit with a lot of influencers who have shown their journey. They did not hit that journey in their 1st or 2nd year.
But I think that goes back to, like, all of this, right? Is setting We're also not good at setting realistic expectations of ourselves because we're so hard on ourselves. And so I've been saying to Hannah, I turn 40 at the end of this month. And I don't know why, but I set myself a goal that on my 40th birthday, I want to be down 100 pounds.
Uh,
Why I set this for myself, I have no idea because I set it like at the start of surgery when I had no idea what was realistic. I had no idea what my weight loss was going to be like. I had no idea what to expect, but I got this in my head. And
uh-huh.
so I'm close. I'm at 92. I've got just under 3 weeks. Am I going to hit it? Probably not. Am I
Uh-huh.
going to be bummed? Yeah. But should I be
Yeah.
bummed? No,
No.
because
Right?
90, even now, like 92 pounds in 6 months, I'm happy with it, yeah. I should be
Amazing.
phenomenally happy with it. But we get these unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves, and then we beat ourselves up to no end when we don't hit it or we don't like the outcome or we don't
Uh-huh.
like what we see. And
That
I
was
think
based on no facts
no,
whatsoever.
but again, like,
My
my
blood
body
sugar
no
stalls too,
facts.
but don't factor that in.
No,
No,
and that's
nothing.
why,
It
like,
was
they
just,
don't even ask you.
this is gonna
They
happen.
Bariatric our clinic doesn't say, "And what's that goal weight that you're trying to get to?" Like, they mentioned, "Do you have a goal weight?" And I was like, "I do." And they were like,
Oh,
"Mhm." And I was like, "Yeah, I just picked a random fucking number out
right.
of thin air." And they were like,
There's no guidance,
"Mhm."
there's no rhyme or reason as to why. But again, it
Mhm.
goes back to us picking ourselves apart, not being happy with where we are ever,
Yeah.
always wanting something more or something different. And it's
Yeah.
I think out of this whole journey, that's I think been the hardest mental shift for me is
Uh-huh.
accepting where I am,
Yes.
accepting what I've done and being happy about it in the
Joyful,
moment and not
celebratory,
yeah, not always looking to, "Okay, but now what? Okay,
and
so I
Yeah.
did this.
comparison.
I hit this, but now I need to do this. But now what? But that's
Yeah.
not enough." This
Well,
which like, this constant drive and need for better.
yeah. And this far out for me, like now that I'm like 2 years out, and I don't know if Hannah's had this happen at all. Like I have had family members specifically who have been like I remember I was having a conversation and they were like, "Well, what was the lowest weight that your doctor gave you?" So my doctor's team was they wanted me to get to 165. That was what they thought would be a healthy weight for me as a 5'2" female. That's what my program wanted me to strive towards or thought I would get to. So, and it's funny, I'm talking to this family member and they're like, "That seems kind of high." And I'm like, that just ruined everything.
Oh,
Thanks so much for
Christ.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Shut your
helpful or
mouth.
constructive at all. And also your opinion versus my doctor. Like, why
Yeah,
should
you
I
gotta go with the
care?
doctor.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, nobody knows weight, and I think that's why picking an arbitrary number before surgery makes
Uh,
no sense because you it has nothing to do with the weight you hold. It's the frame you have, the shape, the
everybody's
size.
body's
But
different.
I go through the same thing. I text Steph comparison is a thief of joy, man. It drives you nuts.
So
But
much.
I will text Steph all the time and be like, Jesus, mother, Hing Christ. Like, I cannot break, like, I can't get below 170 and it's driving me nuts. And I was like, but I was below it before. And she'll be like, when you had pneumonia. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you were,
And
like,
it's true.
deathly ill in the
When I
hospital
was
not
dying and I
eating,
was in the hospital, I was like, I'm in the
but
160s.
I'm
Like, but I was like
165.
pneumonia. So
I
I
I'm
feel
on
tell
like
her,
I'm
like,
gonna
Lipitor,
die,
but
but I
I
hit
keep
my
ping
weight.
ponging like 170, 171, 170, 171. Now, truthfully, I do need to start weight training and stuff. But I remember, like, I would do the same thing. I'd go, oh, that's so fat. Like, and that was such a horrible, like, I would never say that to a human. But in my mind,
Right.
I'd go, oh my God, Hannah, that's nothing to brag about. 170 is fucking huge. However, I wear a size 8 now, which I was like, holy shit. I've
Right?
never in my life. And I had a friend message me, Steph, you'll know, Katie from
Yes.
Vidyard, who,
Yep.
like, Katie could be Slender Man. Like, she is a
Oh, man.
gorgeous,
Yeah.
blonde-haired, slender, like, she just looks great. And she was like,
Barbie.
"Oh my God, Hannah, we wear the same size now." And I was like,
What? Right?
"What?"
Right?
I was like, "No, Katie." And you know what I did? I went, "Oh, Katie, like, these jeans probably shouldn't fit me. Like, they're too snug." Like, I made all these excuses that there's no way this, like, slender, gorgeous friend of mine and I were wearing the same size. And I felt like I had to say, "Oh, I'm too fat to be wearing this size. Don't worry
uh-huh.
about it." And then I was like, what is the matter with you? Like, she's first of all closer to 6 feet than she is to my
Uh-huh.
5'4". So, like, yeah, she probably could wear what I wear, but that's the thing that's crazy is I'm so obsessed with weight versus the sizes I'm wearing, how I'm looking in clothes.
How you
But yes,
feel,
the
how you
same
move.
thought cast goes through my mind that that's not a weight that I should be proud to share.
Yeah, I think with the body dysmorphia too, like you were sharing with the pant sizes, like you don't realize that even visually, you when you picture yourself in your own brain, how you think of yourself. Like my grandma gave me some nightgowns that she had. My grandma is like the thinnest person you've probably ever seen. She's been a Weight Watchers warrior since she was in her
Oh,
Love it.
60s.
bless her heart.
Yeah, bless her heart. So she gave me these 90s, and I'm like, "Grandma, these are like an extra small." I'm not usually an extra small, let me say that too. I
Yeah.
usually fit in about a medium, but I was like, "There is no way these are gonna fit," and they, like, fit perfectly, like,
Yeah.
and I don't care what I wear to bed. Little my grandmother's 90s are perfect for me.
Right. Comfort. Comfort.
But it's yeah, and, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't go away, so anyone who thinks, like, "Well, I'll be certain years out of surgery and it'll all," like, it doesn't. If anything, I wanna go back to something Steph just said a couple of minutes ago, because Cass, I'm curious about your opinion on this here. So she's constantly saying, like, "What's next? What's next? What next?" I felt like in my first year, it was just so celebratory and there was new things all the time, even in like the, lead up to my second year. And now I feel like, oh, who am I now without that major weight loss? Like, I won't be dropping weight like crazy all the time and documenting that journey. And like now where it's maintenance, and there's kind of this weird, like, grief isn't the right word, but there are days where I'm
Identity
like, oh,
identity
so now what
crisis
do I do
almost.
with my life? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
oh,
my gosh,
so
I'm having thoughts of like, I need to revamp my whole wardrobe because I feel like it doesn't suit. You almost evolve into a new person. I do feel like my confidence has changed when I watch my TikToks from the beginning versus how I speak now. Like I speak with a lot more confidence, and I didn't even notice it until my sister had brought it up. And it's I look at my wardrobe that I've slowly picked up to this
Mhm.
point, and I was kind of just going with what fit, what was on sale,
black.
you
Yep,
know.
yep.
And now I'm like, does this actually suit who I want to show up as in the world? Is this what I want for myself, or do I want a new wardrobe? Like,
Yeah.
you want to like reinvent yourself almost.
Right.
Yeah, because you're just like, I don't
Your
like
identity is different.
you're on kind of autopilot in that first year and a bit where you're like, my life is this weight loss journey. And like and then when the weight stops coming off so quick, you're left going, oh, okay, okay, so who am I now? And like, what do I do now? And yeah, I'm in that same spot, right? Where I'm like, oh, was I just buying clothes because they fit
Mhm.
versus like,
Right?
what do I actually want to be known for? The confidence thing is amazing. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag on this one, but I have a new job. I'll tell people more about it later. That's why I've been so absent from Instagram. But like, I'm more confident everywhere, not just in like the way I speak at work, how I hold myself, how I
Your whole
do things.
presence is different.
Yeah, but we're now in this weird phase. I don't know how to describe it to people. You'll get there when you get there, folks, but you're in this
It's
weird,
a
like,
new beginning.
post rapid weight loss. Who the fuck am I? And
Yeah.
what do I celebrate now? And some days it's a bit depressing, not in a bad way, but some days you're
Mhm.
like, oh, that journey is over. Okay. And you kind of wish you spent more time on that journey. There's days where I was like, I should have maybe celebrated a bit harder because like that journey's over for that part of my life. And now I'm in this new journey. And there's days where I'm like, oh, are people bored with maintenance mode, Hannah? Do they miss seeing rapid weight loss, Hannah? And maybe I tied too much of myself to this, but then that's just kind of like dysmorphia and self-esteem. I rip myself out of it and go, no, it's cool that I've made my life about this. And there's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with that.
No, and now people wanna see that fresh it's like a fresh start, it's a new beginning because
Yes.
we've talked about and I've said on this podcast, even though I'm only 6 months out, I'm not the same person I was 3 months ago. I'm not the same
100%.
person I was when I started the journey, and it's a constant evolution,
Mhm.
and then, like you said, then you have to almost sit back and go, "Okay, who's really underneath all of that, that I was
Mhm.
hiding, that I was suppressing, that I was making excuses
'Cause you had
for?"
to be the happy fat
Right.
friend.
Or I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't want to do those things because I was scared, because I was obese. I couldn't do these things because physically I
But
physically
you
couldn't.
convinced
So
yourself you didn't
yeah.
want to do
So
those
what
things.
who's really underneath all of that? And as you go through this journey and we've as we said, you have so many mental mind shifts that happen and emotional mind shifts that you start kind of peeling back those layers of and weight,
Mhm.
layers of everything until you finally get to who you really were. And that's scary.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you said, you're not the same person. Whether you want to admit it or not, you're not the same person.
Yes. I feel
Where
like you then outgrow different areas of your life with
yeah,
that. Like you hear
for
about
sure.
relationships not working out after. I've had some
Yeah.
friendships actually that just, I feel like I outgrew during the process too.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that's okay. You do become a new person. Some
Yeah.
people don't receive your new confidence well. I've had friends too, my TikTok. They were honestly just annoyed with me filming my food all the time. But I wanted people that celebrated that part of me, and they didn't fit into my new life that way, you
That's
know?
And
yeah.
that's okay.
We did,
Friends are
yeah.
seasons, they come
We
and
did an
go.
episode on that where you have to
We
surround
did.
yourself with the people that
You
are
gotta let
going
them
to
go.
support you, that are gonna help you succeed, and are gonna help you build that foundation. And if they're not there for that, then that's fine. And maybe
Mhm.
they come back later, maybe they don't.
Maybe not.
But you have
Yeah.
to kind of be a little bit selfish and say, "This is what I need. This is what's important to me, and if you're not on board,
Mhm.
that's fine.
I've had
But
family that
we're
are
going the other
that
way."
way. Like, my brother, who I know is probably not listening to this, so I'll just say it, was like, "I don't know, maybe stop posting so much online." And I was like, "I don't know why it upsets some people, but it does." And in
Just
that
does.
podcast episode, we did say, "Don't internalize it. Please don't take it personally." People get really uncomfortable when people better their lives and you are not making them judge their own life, but they will. They'll
Uh-huh.
feel like they're being left behind or they're not doing enough and they'll take it out on you aggressively. And it's just easier to judge people. It is, but like just
Mhm.
let it go. Don't be like one of those influencers who's like, here's all the hate comments I get every day. Come on. You get 5 times more positive comments. Like
Mhm.
don't give in to that.
Yep.
But yeah, people just like you will evolve, people will also evolve and maybe they're not the right fit. And I think it's a scary feeling. It
Mhm.
can be a sad feeling because you can realize, wow, I was treated very differently. And you just put a post up about this, which I loved and resonated with so hard that the confidence is great, but it's also that the world is just open to me like it never was when I was obese. I get more opportunity, I get treated differently. Um, I'm celebrated more. And like that is heartbreaking for old Hannah. Because there is always a fear that you regain this weight and go back
Yeah.
that way. And like I was treated differently. I wasn't treated meanly or poorly, but I almost was just not given the same life that I am able to have now, and it's not just all because I have confidence now. I was treated very differently as an obese
Yes.
person, so this is I'm learning to live again. Like, I'm learning how to function like most of you have functioned your whole life. You have to give bariatric people time to catch up because this is not
Yes.
what life was like for us at all when we were obese.
Yeah. I feel like there's a bit of almost in the body dysmorphia. It's like a mental game
Yep.
with that about where you realize that, yeah, your voice is heard in a room a little bit more than you would anticipate post op. And once the weight starts coming off, and yeah, the opportunities are there and you're received so differently. The amount of people that will hold the door open for me who wouldn't have bothered before, is astounding. It's just bizarre, and you don't notice it until you notice it, and you're like,
Yes.
"Wow, just
My
wow."
health is taken more seriously. Now, my family
Mhm.
doctor is an amazing man, and I've praised him several times on this podcast. But it's other places that I notice I just get
Mhm.
slightly better treatment where it's almost like some things were discredited a little when you were overweight.
Yeah.
Like a great
Yep.
example is having pneumonia. I had to go for cardiac testing after because they were like, well, we should just make sure everything's good and we're going to like check because you're not obese or overweight, but when you were obese and overweight it was like, yeah, of course you probably have heart disease. Oh my god. Like we
Uh-huh.
don't have to run a battery of tests. We're going to find it pretty quick and it's like, okay, cool, great, thank you.
I feel
So
like we need to do a whole episode on the difference
Oh my gosh, yes.
in pre and post in terms of the world and how you're treated.
world, your friends, and like I'm not trying to say we should throw your friends under the bus, but you do kind of notice like, hmm, okay. All right. And it wasn't like they were mean or like I love my friends to death. There were some people that I let go in this journey, but you
Mhm.
just kind of realize like, holy shit, I was the fat friend for fuck's
Mhm.
sake. Um and like even just little things, I've had this argument with my mom. She was like, "Yeah, I would park as close to the door as possible when we'd go shopping because like I just didn't think you could walk that far." And I was like, "Hell."
Wow.
But like it's true. I was a
You
huffy
don't realize the
puffy.
thoughts they had of you though, because they do come out actually
They
once
do.
like, and you're like, "Wow, I didn't know you thought of me that way."
Yep.
Or, you're even having your own internal realizations of how
Mhm.
you handled food, and those conversations come out with your
Yep.
friends, and they'll be like, "Yeah, no, we knew you were addicted to sugar," or like, "We knew because we knew the portions," or like, "You always suggesting that we get a little treat right after the dinner," like, we knew
Always
those
have an
things.
appetizer, the meal, a dessert, maybe go out after. But
Yeah.
the thing that kind of annoys me, this could be a whole episode. Why did you enable it then?
Mhm.
Why didn't you speak up
No one
then?
said anything.
Yeah.
No.
Because
Everybody
like
was
I
too
can
afraid to
guarantee
say
you
anything
if
then,
we fall off the wagon now, they're gonna be the
Yeah.
loudest motherfuckers in that room being like, you sure you
So
need that?
loud.
right?
But
Aren't you
before
not
it was
supposed
like
to
you
have that?
enabled this.
Yeah.
Like you because by me being gluttonous, it gives you the freedom in your mind to indulge because well, I'm not as bad as Hannah,
Well,
so
if
it's gonna
Hannah
be
is,
totally
I can
fine.
too.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and some
Well, but
people too, you were okay with you always being the fat funny friend, right? They were okay with you being that person. So as
comfort
long as they don't
them.
say anything, you get to remain that person.
Yeah. My gosh, there's so many future episode topics.
Yes, I
So
think
many.
we should definitely do a when we were fat episode. I think it would be just to tell people like what life was like who maybe don't know what it's like to live in an obese body. And it's not going to be
Uh-huh.
a scathing reflection on the medical system because honestly my problems were elsewhere. But
Yeah.
I think just like
But it is a different world.
it's
It is.
It was
different.
a different world.
And just like, yeah, the praise we get now and the difference we get now. And maybe that will shed light to people on why we talk about what we talk about. Because
Mhm.
if one more person is like, well, why do you have to post everything? Okay, frig off, Karen. Like,
Yeah.
don't follow then,
Right.
right?
Here's
Like,
this is how you unfollow me.
yeah, it's
Enjoy.
accountability. It's to take me out of my body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
It's to help my self esteem. Like having to be single after all, like dating through this is going to be just a whole thing that stresses me right the fuck out. So, if sharing my life online can help build my confidence more and keep
Then
me
power to
accountable,
you.
it's just one better tool in my
Yep.
toolbox. So, maybe an
Yeah.
episode, yeah, where we all
I
talk
think
about this.
I think too, Hannah, we like, and even Steph, we really got into how with the body dysmorphia for those people who are listening to this and struggling with that currently or don't know how they're going to react to it. You talked about those moments, having those things to rely on that snap you back into it, that elastic band or however you're going to choose to do it. You mentioned Hannah trying some weight training. I
Yep.
actually find that when I'm flexing and looking and I can see my muscle tone, that's like a snapback moment for me because I could not see it
Yep.
under the layers
Yes.
of just fat I had before. Like I just could not see the muscle tone. Um,
Yep.
that's a snapback moment. Having photos of yourself is a snapback moment for body dysmorphia. Don't get rid of some of your. I kept some of my favorite dresses and stuff, like summer dresses that were like my comfort clothes as a bigger person. And like sometimes I just put those suckers on because it feels good to like know that I loved it so much then. I still love the dress, but like I just look so different in it now, you know? So.
I've kept a few like gowns that I had to buy for
Mhm.
Christmas parties, and it's like, okay, all right.
Reality
Like,
check.
yes, have snapbacks. Have
Mhm.
snapbacks. As we wrap up this episode, what's kind of everybody's, I'd say like I mean, Cass just gave it, but does anybody want to end with like what advice do you have for people going through body dysmorphia? Or I mean, if we don't have advice, what we can what we can tell them that we've
I
gone
think
through or experienced, but what's the one thing you want to
yeah.
leave people with?
I think just giving yourself time every day to praise yourself, right? At least once a day. Find something positive about yourself. Take the time to stop, stand in the mirror, and say something good. Tell yourself something good. And for every negative that comes in your head, give it a positive.
Mhm.
Always counteract it with a positive.
I
So
like
good.
that. Yeah,
So
that's a
good.
good one. Cass took mine, so I know. I think, yeah, body dysmorphia is hard. So I think if you are suffering from it, my advice is please talk to a therapist. I know that the healthcare or mental health care is not as affordable as it should be in this
Mhm.
country.
Yeah.
So if you have access to a clinic, book a call with a social worker. They actually offer like I could have booked lots of calls with a social worker. I had access to my own therapist, but I just encourage you to talk to them because they can actually give you really good tips and tricks, kind of like what Steph said, having a thought record, having things to counter those thought records.
Mhm.
But just talk to someone because like it is hard to go through that. And there is no shame in that game. There's no shame in saying, man, why do I not see myself in the mirror? Um, but I think, yeah, the big thing for me is pictures. And if you need to print them out, print them out. If
Uh-huh.
you need to just have them hanging up in your house, there is nothing wrong with seeing them. So when you walk past the mirror, they're there on the mirror so that you don't have to sit there and stare at yourself and overanalyze yourself.
Mhm.
And then don't compare yourself to others. So what you see on social is a fraction. You don't know if they're
Yeah.
on GLP-1s. You don't know if they're eating behind the scenes. You don't know if they've had cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
Just follow your own path, track your own measurements, and just try to compare yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy, as you said.
My
It that like
God.
I
Yep.
live by that.
Me too. Because I
Like,
compared myself to fucking everyone.
Everyone.
Because I had no one at the beginning, so I was constantly like, "Oh, oh, am I gonna?" And that's the one thing we try to tell people is please don't use those online calculators
No.
or try to like guesstimate how much you're gonna lose. It
uh-uh.
is such a spectrum. It's like between 30 to 70. If you think every single person is at 70% that goes through the
Keep
program,
dreaming.
come on. So
Keep dreaming.
don't set yourself up for that success either. And remember, like, it's a 3-year process minimum to get where you want to go. But like
Yeah.
you could potentially lose 30 or maybe 40% of your excess body weight. And so don't set yourself up to be like, I thought it would be 70 and I'd be 122 pounds. And like, there was a moment where Hannah was like, I'm going to be 120 pounds. This is going to be fucking dope. And now I'm like, not a chance.
Not a
Not a
chance.
chance. I'm
No,
shedding
no way
40
in
more
hell.
pounds this year.
Yeah.
But you also get to a point where you're like, I don't need to lose 40 more pounds. I'm
Mhm.
totally great with where I am.
Yeah. And when people say you look different and you're showing up different, it's easier said than done, but like believe it.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
believe it. And if you're not believing it, that's probably a good time for you to do a check-in with yourself. I feel like we don't do a lot of check-ins with ourselves on how are we feeling about how we're looking, how are we feeling about what we see in the mirror, because we're kind of just going through the motions. We're so focused on our hydration, protein. Am I doing the right thing? Carbs are bad, and all these things like that. We're just like forced into our head post-op. So it's okay when somebody says, you're looking good, you're looking great, we're so happy for you, you look so healthy. Be happy by those compliments, and then also you're going to start taking record of what the compliments you don't like receiving. But we need to believe it a little bit more when we hear it. And if you don't believe it, okay, maybe we need to sit back and see, why can't we take the compliment? Why can't we accept it?
Yes. Don't discredit the compliment, which I struggled with my whole first year. I even told my therapist, like, when people comment, I go, oh my God, stop. No. Like, I would try to shut the compliment down so fast because I was like, well, I've only lost 40 pounds. I have so much more to go. And it's like,
Right.
Cass is right. Like, accept the compliment and understand that, like, people in your life are not just blowing smoke up your ass. Like,
Uh-huh.
they're genuinely complimenting you on what has happened.
Uh-huh.
But you're not used to it because when people said that when you were obese, you were like, well, you're a fucking liar.
Uh-huh.
But take the compliment.
Yeah.
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 Agreed. Own
I
it.
dig it. Well, Steph and I just want to thank you so, so much for being on the podcast. And like, we definitely need to do this again. We need to have you on. There's a million other things I want to talk to you about, but
Yeah.
just thank you. I think our listeners are going to absolutely just love your insights and hearing from you and probably beg for you to come back to talk more.
Yes, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. I'm a yapper at heart, so
Love it.
Hey, we love it. So thanks everybody for
Thank
listening.
you.
We have no hints on what next week's episode is in this one because we just want to savor the moment of body dysmorphia and having Cass on with us. So please go follow her on TikTok if you don't and on all her channels. But we will be posting again next week. We'll tell you on Instagram what that topic is. But like always, just thanks for listening along. And Cass and Steph, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
see you, everybody. Bye.